All right, folks, I'm giving you a early present. Thursday, you will have the day off. I will not be here. I will not have a recording. We will just start right where we left off. We will finish this chapter and we'll move on. I'm scheduled to go to the Atlantic Marketing Association conference in Savannah, and I'm going to be presenting this on the dimensionality of non-fungible tokens, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. I will also be doing a presentation to y'all later on, because it is extremely important that you understand what non-fungible tokens and cryptocurrencies are all about. This research is quite a bit different because I do it from 50,000 feet up. So I explore what happens during the creation of a cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens so that you understand them. And that's really what we're doing. There's a lot of not necessarily debate amongst us of the fact is that the concern is whether it's real or not, because there may be nothing so completely intangible as a non-fungible token or a cryptocurrency. And that many times even the discussing of it becomes confusing because we don't know how to grasp it, because as I said, it's completely intangible. So this is my research that I'm going to be doing. And I've got more research that's moving along. So as I said, this long run story getting longer. Don't come, I won't be here. Okay? We'll contain your disappointment. Okay. This Thursday. Right. Okay. Yes. Which is, September 29th. Yes. Stay home. So I've got to go here, give my presentation on Thursday, and run like hell out of there to beat the hurricane out. So no sticking around for cocktails. Savannah. Which is pretty cool because we're staying right across where the main the main cranes are at the Savannah port, where they unload 4.6 million containers every year. Yeah, can I even grasp that as an idea? The fascinating thing, folks, is that we have an amazing infrastructure in the United States. From Savannah, Georgia to San Diego, California, we have a railway system that goes across the United States that spans the southern U.S. And there are major dropping points for those trains to be bulk broken into trucks, into smaller locations, large ones around Dallas, one around New Mexico, one around Louisiana. And it's a fascinating infrastructure if you ever got into it. It's kind of why I was really high on Maersk, and I still am. It's big stuff, folks. It's really big game, and it's just amazing to try to put it all together. Yeah, they did $16 billion worth of railway work in the last 2 decades so that they could move between Alabama and Texas at 70 miles an hour versus the 30 miles an hour that they were only capable of doing. The railway system in the United States gets a short shrift, mostly because when people consider railway, we consider passenger railway, all right? And passenger railway takes a lot of the exposure out. But freight railway is the cheapest in the world in the United States. A lot of that has to do also with the gauge of rail that we have. Our trains are a third larger than the trains that you happen to see in Europe. They're a different size of the wheels, by the way. By the way, do you know, you wouldn't know, well, some of you might, but the actual distance in the axles for European rail was the exact same as the Roman chariots, 4 feet 6 inches. Okay, that's where the original rail came from, and they're still using a standard that was developed 2,000 years ago. So kind of interesting stuff. All right, so going on, let's keep going.
When you go to Savannah, you should go to Market or River Street.
Oh, yeah. I have not, but yes, yes. Okay, so we are still in the make or buy options and the reasons why. And once again, folks, if there's any single reason why you make the make or buy decision, we're going back to this original reason. The only reason you do anything in business, any business decision, is to improve your return on investment. There's only one choice, and there's only one reason why. We determine or we decide whether we're going to make or whether we're going to buy on one reason and one reason alone, is it makes you more money. No other reason why. Return on investment. And return on investment, as I've said, is composed of 3 things: the revenues, the money we make, the direct cost that is associated with the making of those products, and then all of the extraneous overhead that goes up into running a business. And it is not unusual, especially in the accountant's point of view, all respect to accountants, that if I decrease this number or decrease that number, my efficiency goes up. Basic stuff. Okay. Now, there are powerful reasons why we outsource distribution. It's not like we just come up with this idea that we're going to start from this because it's an easy decision. Well, the big reason is that in terms of the buy decision, it quite simply is that everything is on our side. As a buyer, you could literally say it's a buyer's market, all right? There's what's known as a buyer's market and a seller's market. And so if I have something to buy and I have many sellers, then it is to my advantage. So what are the reasons to outsource? Why? Okay. Well, let's first say this, is that in developed economies, markets for distribution services are efficient. Successful corporations are not just lucky. They've got there for a reason. And these are some of the reasons why. The first is motivation. If I am a seller of my services to some upstream providers, all of the incentives are for good performance. If I perform well, then I'm rewarded by the buyer of my services with money. If I fail to perform, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Fear of failure is very real. Because in a truly global economy, there are many substitutes for your job. There are many corporations who are willing to step in and perform the same service. And so that is a big motivation. Outside parties are inherently replaceable. And the market will create the cruelest discipline of all. They will simply pass you by, go somewhere else. The market is a great, oh gosh, distributor of justice in a truly open market. The next is specialization. Those corporations that all they do, especially as a specialized intermediary, they just do this one thing. It means that they have no distractions whatsoever. That this individual thing that they focus on becomes everything that they do. So when Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nations, fascinating thing, in 1776, two things happened. One, of course, was the Declaration of Independence, and the other is that Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations. If George Washington was the father of our country, Adam Smith was the mentor. And one of the things that Adam Smith said, Scottish economist, was that the best thing that we can do is do the one thing that we have as an individuals that we do better than anyone else. And we sell our services, and with the money that we get from our services, we go buy the best that someone else does. And this is where the whole concept of where a specialization leads to optimization comes from. The next is survival of the economic fittest. The failure will result if they fail to perform their functions better than their competition, and that those that are better will do better and survive. It should also say that along with the survival of the economic fittest, one of the things that helps is that the barriers to movement are traditionally very low, other than contract completion. Other than that, quite simply, it's very easy to move to another corporation. Because specialized intermediaries also tend to be conduits or clusters of information, they can call on many smaller customers more frequently and more efficiently. And so if you remember with our very first chapter, the very first chapter we talked about the mom and pop stores that, because of their particular economic situation, simply couldn't expend the money to buy in the massive amounts in order to make their purchases efficient. Well, an external third party can cluster those all together and take better care of those smaller customers than attempting to try to do it yourself. And the last is an extremely important one, is that if you do the make decision, you're in essence putting all of your eggs in one basket. That there is no other alternative. Whereas if you outsource that, you usually have many different suppliers or manufacturers. And that diversified providers can also provide an impartial device to know whether quality is good or not. And so you'll find many manufacturers who will have more than one corporation who does their manufacturing for them, like Nike, quite simply because when you have a portfolio of them, you have some form of impartiality. In other words, all of the players have to play by the same rules. And if I don't use one manufacturer, I always have another one just in case it's a backup, all right? The one other thing that that heavier market coverage also means is that this wholesaler has a deep knowledge of the individual customers in which he works in. Each individual customer becomes more important to him or them than just anyone. And that's an important thing as well. All right. So all of these are very powerful reasons why we wish to outsource. Now, as the strength of our organization moves up, the question to make always should be in our minds. The make decision is always inherently going to be more expensive, but there can be points when it becomes not only valuable, but it becomes essential. And so let's talk about the reasons why we actually want to do the make situation. Now, this is just a quick slide. We're going to go through each one of these one at a time. But there are two reasons why we may want the make decision. One of these is your capabilities are intangible, difficult to hold. And the other is tangible. And so let's talk about these one at a time, all right? Once again, the make decision has to be made if you can do things better with the make versus the buy, all right? Let's also talk about okay. One other thing is that vertical integration entails costs. That are generally not recoverable. In other words, you can't resell what you've got, all right? And it's not worth considering if the firm does not have the necessary resources. Okay. A lot of hard reasons why the make decision is so difficult. But if you go down this pathway, making these questions in your mind, ultimately what you're going to do is make the most rational choice you can. So let's talk about the intangibles. Idiosyncratic knowledge. Anyone ever watch anyone tune a piano? It's really interesting to watch it. Have you seen it? How long does it take? Yeah, but it's really interesting. Some use machines, some use ear. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to listen to. Not only that, but generally good ones can tell you whether or not your piano is never going to get any better or going to get, or a good one. I mean, they're really good at what they do. And yet that knowledge is not something that's easily transferable to another skill. It is a very unique skill, all right? There are some basic skill sets you have that sometimes are transferable. Like one of the things when I was in computer science, one of the things that I talked about is that individuals who are music majors were also very good at computer science because they were able to picture a structured language in their minds. Well, idiosyncratic knowledge is just basically any kind of knowledge that can't be used to another principle. It's like taking your skill trying to use it for something else and you got nothing. All right, there's no way to use that particular skill. However, when it's in that wheelhouse, it's vitally important. And so there's the first one. The next is the relationships. So the connections that you have between the distributor personnel, the personnel of the manufacturer's customers, the ability to fix things quickly, correctly, effectively. You have this connection, this gift that cannot be transferred. And the other is brand equity, a manufacturer's brand name. Many times the brand name is very effective where it is. And that brand equity can be transferred to other things as well. So I don't know if you know this, but Swedes have outstanding coffee. And one of the best brands is Javalia. And as much as I love community coffee from Louisiana, I'm drinking Javalia right now. The brand name is strong enough that it carries itself with it. Brand equity?
No,
What's that?
coffee.
Coffee? Oh, Gevalia. G, Javalia. It's a fine grain coffee, by the way. It's really good for drip coffee. Depends on whether you're a coarse grain or a fine grain person, but it's awesome. It really is. Even their mild is robust. All right. I like a robust cup of coffee. I don't like overwhelming flavor. And even their medium roast is excellent.
That dress because I'm in charge of the coffee. Down the village.
Oh, really?
Every Sunday, my wife and I make coffee.
All right. Try it out. Try a pot or two.
Yeah.
You'll get hooked. You will. So that's intangible capabilities, the things that you can't put on a piece of paper. Tangible facilities are those facilities, or excuse me, tangible capabilities are those that have a physical asset. Customized physical facilities. The facilities that are used, they use Amazon here, but I'll give you an even bigger one, pharmaceuticals. So much of pharmaceuticals is tied up around the individual picking and counting of each individual pill for obvious reasons, government and otherwise. But customized physical facilities is a major reason. Another is a dedicated capacity where you have a particular warehouse that's been created to serve a particular manufacturer or a particular process. So FedEx and Amazon started their breakup 2 years ago when Amazon insisted that 2/3 of the capacity of FedEx's facilities in Cincinnati were to be dedicated just to Amazon only. And FedEx said, you're not the only customer in the world. We have others. We can't dedicate that. And basically Amazon said, fine, we'll build our own. And they did. And the final one is that you need the facilities at a very particular location, which may be less suited to the needs of other manufacturers, but is perfect for you. Coors Beer has made a marketing campaign out of the facilities that they only bottle in Golden, Colorado. I've been to the Coors place, by the way, because of the water that comes particularly from there. And so that may not be the best place to do any other business in Colorado, but for Coors Beer, that's the place they want to be. And so when these things start adding up, when they become more individualized for your organization, that your company is moving into a very narrow direction, especially when it comes to achieving success, then what you must do is you must build in those capabilities in as many ways as possible. But with all of these things, as I've said before, it's hard to fight the power of outsourcing. And so you've got to once again, I'm repeating myself, you've got to come up with good reasons why to do it, all right? Let's also say that when your particular assets are built around your particular company, that you're not a general sales group, that also affects it when you're talking about the environmental uncertainty that you're around. So this is a very, this is a very busy kind of slide here. So let me kind of explain it. Once again, this is kind of the same discussion that we have in terms of how vertical you are as a corporation. So specificity is how unique your assets and products are. If you're a general merchandiser, a general distributor who focuses on things such as cost and delivery, you are considered to be low specific, have low specific. Spit it out, baby. I knew I was going to do that wrong. If you are a highly vertical market, you have very unique tweaks in your particular job or your particular organization. That's highly specific. Yes. That's a great question. The answer would be probably as a general overall perception of you by your customers, by yourself, by the other organizations out there. That's a good question. I'll give you an example. McDonald's as a generic kind of fast food location, that would be one. Comeback Shack is a very unique, highly specific organization in the same kind of general market, but completely different in the way that they do things, all right? I always, when we talk about franchising, I've always said Comeback Shack is kind of tailor-made for franchising. They have one in Myrtle Beach, I believe, but, pardon me? Charleston? Okay, yeah. Okay, there you go. I've always thought, you know, I mean, the reasons for franchising, of course, is that if you want to grow fast and you have a limited number of assets, but apparently they don't do that. But to me, it's tailor-made for a franchising opportunity if they ever came to it. And the reason why it's tailor-made is that specificity. Spit it out there. Anyway, you get it. I mean, when you look at the place, you go in, you know, so many different things. You can roll away the front door and you've got this wide open place in which you can eat in. It's so unique and so special that they're on this side of the market. So a highly volatile market, all right, one in which there is enormous ups and downs, where you have recessions, you have growth, where you're not quite sure what's going on. if you're a generic, let's just say a general kind of contractor, then in a volatile market, you want to stay away from committing yourself. You want to outsource your distribution because you need the flexibility until the uncertainty is over. In a volatile market where you're very specific, in a promising market, it is to your advantage to vertically integrate. You want to be able to control the conditions around you. And so you vertically integrate, you gain control over the employees, but you also achieve a continuity, even in uncertain times. And consumers will look for continuity, especially in a volatile market. They want to know that you're going to be around. Market, by the way, is I would consider it to be an industry. So if you're looking at the fast food industry, that would be considered a market. All right. If I were going into handheld electronics, that would be considered a market. Okay. If the market is uncertain, or if the market is not promising, I can think of a lot of them right now. There's no reason to be in it in the first place, and you don't go in. All right, don't enter. Also, one other thing on this is if you're a strong business and you have substantial capabilities, the vertical market may be the best place to be, especially in a highly unstable market. Because hopefully what you have done is you've secured consistent facilities for an extended period of time. Go ahead. Come back, check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big mistake. They just made a big mistake.
How's that?
One of the things that was unique about them is you go in there, you take that piece of paper,
Right.
and you fill it out, and it takes 15 or 20 seconds, and you hand it to them. But now it's all electronic, and you got to use QR codes like everybody else is doing. So they need it.
Sustainable. It's more sustainable.
Yeah, it would be more sustainable to do it that way. That's true.
From a
Other than,
marketing standpoint.
right, other than if they were to say at some point where you're using recycled paper or something like that, it might be a better way. Right. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons for it, everybody. I would first do research. You know, I mean, before I would make a change like that, I would ask my customers.
Well, the cars are still landing in the building.
Yeah, they're doing all right. They're not
They're
hurting.
doing all right.
Well, and that's another reason why is that there's been a substantial change in driving, especially in the last 2 years as well. We also are in the middle of something that's called BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store. It's either called BOPIS or BOP, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And we find consumers, instead of just wanting to stay home, are actually getting in their cars for one big reason. Why are people getting in their cars and getting delivered? That's a good reason. That's one of the first ones. And there's one more too. Not, but how long does it take for pizza to show up nowadays? 45 minutes. Yeah. I mean, when it was under 30, it was something. But the problem with right now is they can't find drivers. And so I will not wait 45 minutes for a pizza. I will order online and I'll get in my car and pick it up. Doesn't bother me. All right. I'm a driving person anyway. So anyway, yeah, that's made a substantial change.
I'm actually doing a project on comeback track for another class of mine.
Really cool.
Because they're building another location in beside Brand.
Excellent. Where?
It's right next to Mellow Mushroom. It's like directly across the road.
Real
Not
downtown.
across- yeah, but it's basically gonna be, my project is we're creating how we want Comeback Shack to be. So they're basically taking students' advice on what they want to do and stuff like that. So if you have things that you don't like about Comeback Shack, it's something really good. Because I get to create the whole blueprint plan and everything about, like, if I want them to sell alcohol on game days, if I want whatever, I can create it how I want to.
A couple of recommendations, okay? So there's what's known as category membership, okay? So what you want Comeback Shack to be is that everything that everybody wants, all right? But then something unique or better, okay, than what the traditional, what the traditional downtown is, okay? So category membership is one thing, but you also want category uniqueness in another, okay? So you want to tell everybody that this is everything that Comeback Shack is, plus more, all right? So, you know, I would be everything that people like about it, all right? But then, this is just a thought. I mean, this is just me talking off the cuff. But I would also like to think about what makes it special about being in downtown. Okay, so you create the category membership of being, as a Comeback Shack, the category membership of being a downtown member. Just a thought.
What's really different about this location too is they're not going to have a drive. So it's gonna be, and kind of my vision of it is they should do something as far as a walk-up window of, hey, I'm here for a game, I want my food fast.
Right.
Type thing. So if they're not doing a drive-through, they should at least do something really quick. I want a burger now, let's go.
Are they gonna have, are they gonna have a?
They don't have a lot of plans, so that's kind of what our project is this semester. It's a final project for my strategic marketing management class.
I think they did an excellent job with their drive-through. I mean, that really saved them and survived them. If they can translate that into.
I think the hard thing with the QR code too, and because I don't know if it's just my service, but Boone service kind of sucks sometimes. So every time I go through the drive-through, I cannot scan the QR code.
Yeah.
So I struggle with that. So I'm sure other people struggle with that too.
Yeah.
And that's not something they can necessarily help with the service, but
Right.
having menus and stuff like that available.
You almost may wish they could do a menu online, but then again, that's a lot of expense to do that and attach it to a online cash service.
Two big categories, yeah. People who grew up with computers and cell phones.
We'll talk on that later. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
curious.
They really didn't.
I mean, I can like,
Yeah.
all semesters.
I love talking about that. So another thing of vertical integration is important is that if I'm a manufacturer and I am uncertain to what my public or my customers are, I have a difficulty what's known as performance ambiguity. So it means that I am the manufacturer up here, all right? And my customers are down here somewhere. And in the middle here, I have this idea of what I think the customers want, but I'm not sure. And so performance ambiguity just basically means I don't have enough information about what my customers like. As a manufacturer, I don't know how my customers discern how well I'm doing. I can try to find out. And so many times I will reduce the distance between me and the customers to get a closer understanding of what my customers consider what's important and what isn't. And then one final reason is quite simply is that success means many times we have to learn from our customers. Remember that the individuals in here are the boundary spanners. They're the individuals that have intimate personal contact with each other. And that if I'm really going to learn, remember the delivery is part of the value chain. The interaction and the delivery people is just as important. So Luxottica was a French brand of eyeglassware maker. But they specialized with doctor's office, with optometrists. The thought of a corporation like LensCrafter that would just open up and have a doctor in the store itself is almost an alien concept to them. They could not understand that. And so they actually bought LensCrafter to gain the knowledge of what it's like to interact with the consumer in a one-on-one environment. And so all of these are reasons why we interact with each other, why we decide to make the make decision or the buy decision. And it's not an easy one to make, all right? So I'm going to wrap up this with some points that I want to make. One of them is, remember this, is that in the decision between make or buy, you always start with the concept that outsourcing is more attractive. Bless you. Yes. In making the decision between make or buy, you start with the base that outsourcing is more attractive for those many reasons I listed. In a vertical market situation, the vertical market assumes that there are many participants, but not that many unique ones, and that you provide a unique service, and that uniqueness is what is vertically integrated. And the truth of the matter is, it is not all or nothing. And so we will talk about dual distribution, where you're actually making and buying at the same time, but it's in a unique environment and a unique situation. Two keys, remember, your company's specific capabilities will grow over time. As a corporation, you're going to become unique, more distinct than the other organizations out there. And so the opportunity to vertically integrate is a question you should always ask yourself. And that performance ambiguity can become a very dangerous hole, a lack of knowledge. When we look at Blockbuster, we see an enormous hole there that they simply did not fathom. If I were to look at the record industry, when they went away from singles, that was a ridiculous step that they had no alternative, okay? And as I've always stated again, remember that integrating forward or backward is expensive. It's the one thing that we've always talked about. And you've got to answer the key questions first. What are my company specific capabilities? Are they substantial enough to vertically integrate? And of course, the question I go over again and again is, will it increase the return on our investment? If I can benefit from the 6 advantages, then by all means do it. And remember, if there are conditions within the firm that benefit from them, you do it. And if you don't, you consider vertical integration. And just realize that being committed to the system doesn't mean you're committed permanently. All right, I'm running out of voice. Remember, don't be here Thursday because I won't be here. Say that again. All right, be somewhere else, but don't be here, okay? Thursday, I'll be at the conference and running away from the hurricane. Have a good one.